you guys have anybody that wants to watch, it's on YouTube, and you don't have to log in. So if you have any family or friends that are like somewhere else, obviously not hiding here in this room, you can tell them to log in. I just started it. We'll let it roll for a while. So,
okay, so I could go on YouTube and watch ourselves.
Yes, or if you wanted to share it with whoever.
Absolutely.
What it's under is just Ocoee Riverside Farm, and it'll pop up right away.
That's how I found you in the first place, was Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. We like to see what works. Glad you guys made it here.
And then I got on the web. Said, well, we want to see the monkey. We'll do the monkey next time.
Yeah.
And of course, we got to see the monkey on our way in.
Where are you guys from?
We're from Louisville, Tennessee, which is just close to the airport.
Okay.
Within
Louisville. Yeah, gotcha.
Louisville,
Yep.
Tennessee.
Right.
And it's about an hour and a half.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, it's easy. We left at 7:30, stopped at Hardee's and
I wanted to make sure we got
Etowah.
Like the Chattanooga airport? Or
No, Tennessee, Knoxville.
Knoxville, there we go. Because I was like, there's not a Louisville near Nashville. And I was like, if he got here.
Going the other way.
Yeah, I was like, if you got here in an hour and a half from Nashville, we should go ride together because that would be a lot of fun. I was like, you're booking it. Glad you guys made it.
Thank you.
So you stay pretty booked with the encounters for the sloths. I would think they're a huge draw.
Yeah, the sloths are definitely I think that the first thing that you see when you type in Ocoee Riverside Farm on the page is somebody holding a sloth. So they're definitely our biggest, the highlight of the place. Well, people come
They just love us.
Yeah.
People just love sloths.
I've never understood the sloth crave. I mean, I work with sloths every day, so I guess I'm a little bit biased. But even before I started working here, I don't know. I mean, they're cool animals, but I don't know that I would.
Pay that kind of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought about it. She goes, we're only going to do it one time. It's
Yeah.
once in a lifetime thing. I said, well, we'd have lost that up at Bristol at the casino anyway. So
Yeah.
at least we get to hold sloths and feed them. What's he decided to do? Just hang out.
Yeah, he's just thinking about if he wants to lower back down and get any more food or not. Here in a minute, I've got his rice mixture here as well that he really likes, and so if you guys want to feed him here in a minute, we can. Big stretch.
So if this is going to be on where is that going to be on YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube. You just look up Ocoee Riverside Farm.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Hey.
So I think I had mentioned earlier about the locking mechanisms that they have in their claws. What makes this their relaxed state and this actually their stress state. And I had mentioned that if they were to pass away holding on to the branch of a tree, they would continue to hang there. And I used to always tell people that until like about a month ago. I've only been here for 3 months, but for the first 2 months I was always telling people that. And then I actually got to see it firsthand. It was Flash's yearly exam, and the vet came out just to do his exam and do some blood work on him and everything as an annual visit. But we have to sedate him for that because getting blood from a sloth could be pretty difficult if they're awake. So after those sedatives fully kicked in, he was completely unaware of anything. You know, you could touch him all over the face, on the nose, around the eyes, was completely out of it, but was still completely locked onto that branch, claws all the way around it, legs all the way extended out just like that. And we continued to work on him there while he was hanging for about 10 minutes while he was completely out of it. And then it was time to get him down and do his blood work, because it's kind of hard to get access to a vein when the sloth's above your head like that. So we did have to pry his claws off of that branch to get him down off of there, and we finished working on it on the counter, but he was still claws locked in like that with his arms extended all the way out the whole time we worked on him. It wasn't until he started to wake up that he brought those legs in and was like kind of starting to, come to and started to crawl around a little bit. But it was really cool to watch that.
Well, it makes sense because they're going to sleep up there.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually when I tell people that they fall out of the tree about once a week on average, you're like, oh, they just get tired? And I'm like, nope. They would hang there for a long time. Not because they get tired, just a branch breaking or a miscalculated step. And you would think that looking at him from the backside or even right here, without being able to actually see his face and see his eyes, being completely still, not moving whatsoever, you'd think he was sleeping. But then you look at his face and you see his eyes are actually open. So that's why scientists used to think that they slept for a lot more than they actually do. Because you wouldn't, from a distance, you'd think they were sleeping. So they're not moving at all.
He's not moving.
Yeah.
Just at all.
Yeah, but his eyes are open.
Frozen.
I'd like to know their thought process sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
What's
he's
he
literally
thinking?
just staring at the wall. I mean, he's not even,
And
looking
he
at
can't,
anything.
he can't see anything
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
He's probably going, yeah, but I've lived a long time. This is why.
You said he's about 7?
They
So
live how
in this
long?
environment, what would general lifespan be provided?
captivity.
No.
In captivity, the oldest sloth that we know of that was born and raised in captivity was actually named Jan. He lived in a zoo in Germany and just passed away last year in August. He was 54 when he passed away. So they can live pretty long, healthy lives. And his roommate, they're obviously doing something right there because his roommate, the female that he was with, lived to be 50. So given all the right conditions and everything, they can live long lives. Now that's in captivity. In the
With
wild,
the right
it's-
food
yeah.
and being careful.
Yeah, and nothing, nothing after them and not having to be
In the
hidden from
wild,
anything.
how long?
In the wild, sloths are actually pretty difficult to track, and a lot of times there's things that take them their lives before they're ready to go, like other jaguars or eagles or stuff like that, and even telephone lines. A lot of times when they're trying to pass a roadway, they'll be using a telephone line, and it's fine as long as they're on one. But if there's one nearby and they go to reach onto that one, they'll connect that circuit and they'll be shocked. So that takes a lot of sloths' lives earlier than they would naturally. So there have yet to be any scientist that has been able to track a single sloth from birth until natural passing. So we're not exactly sure. We expect it to be about half of what it is typically in captivity, just due to natural things that happen. It's not typical that they live to be 50 years old in captivity. Typically in the States and everything, people that have sloths that have been born and raised in captivity live to be about 20, 25 years. So
It's longer than I thought. But I mean, that would be, if you had a sloth and cared for it properly, you can see that it would,
yeah.
it wouldn't have.
But it's definitely, it's you have got to stay on top of your game all the time if you have a sloth, because of how sensitive everything is. If you mess up even just a little bit by leaving a door cracked to their outdoor enclosure through the winter months, if the temperature in their enclosure were to drop, sloths cannot maintain their own body temperature. It takes too much energy to do that, so their body temperature would as well. And it wouldn't be that we necessarily would worry about hypothermia, but would worry about that bacteria being wiped out, because they can't live in an environment like that. And if that were to happen, we come in the next morning and realize that their enclosure is 50 degrees. There's nothing we can do about it at that point. All of that bacteria is going to be wiped out, and that sloth will live for about 2 minutes. So it's always something that you have to be. And it's not just that. It's not just the temperature. It's the diet. It's their routine. It's the way they go to that. Everything has to be just right for them. And if you make some small mistake, it's the end. It's not really too much that you can really learn from that. I mean, obviously you'll learn from it, but I don't know that you'll ever get to know sloth. Because it's, Did you find your appetite?
Well, look,
Put it up some. It's nice and
feed it
stretch it.
backwards.
You stretch
Can't see
down
where
as
I'm
far-
going.
You stretch down as far as you can stretch.
But you can see how their legs are actually pretty short compared to their arms.
Yes.
Their arms are like as long as his entire body and twice as long as their back legs. So they're actually excellent swimmers. The fastest form of transportation for a sloth is actually by water. They're really slow in the trees, and they're even slower on ground crawling. It is painfully slow to watch a sloth crawl on the ground.
Yes, we watched videos.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. And you know, some scientists, no, not all scientists agree, but some scientists speculate that when they're upside down in their natural position in a tree, that's their way of seeing right side up. And it's the opposite if they're on the ground crawling, everything's like upside down for them. And it makes sense because everything else in their body is geared to be upside down. So, you know, it makes sense that they'd be crawling so slow because everything's just looking weird and they're disoriented. But yeah, swimming is definitely their fastest way. Their stomach is kind of like has 4 chambers, and so it ruminates similar to like a cow, how they have the 4 stomachs like that. And it produces, since they're just eating leaf material, which is similar to grass, produces a lot of gas, and it makes their stomach, their back end will just float because of that. And so those arms, even just one swipe of an arm gets them, you know, moves them pretty quick. So if they just over and over, they kind of doggy paddle almost, but it's not like this. It's they'll make their whole arm swoosh through the water like that, so it moves them pretty quick.
How interesting.
But we haven't got into my absolute favorite part of a sloth yet, and that's why they have to use the bathroom at the floor every week. It would make a lot more sense for the sloth to just go to the bathroom up in the tops of the trees, because that's where they spend all the rest of their lives. The only time they come down is to go to the bathroom. And you know, when they're down there on the floor, there's other things that could potentially grab hold of them. So it makes a lot more sense that the sloth could just stay up in the tops of the trees. And there's reasons that scientists speculate different reasons for why the sloth would come down to the base of the tree to go to the bathroom. Some say that they're fertilizing their own tree so that it has more leaves so that they can stay in it longer. But that would make, you know, if they go to the bathroom in the tops of the trees, it's still going to fall in those root systems, so it's still going to fertilize that tree. Other scientists speculate that it's just because they're creatures of habit. They like to do the same thing all the time. Because when they do go to the bathroom, it's not just that they go down to the base of the tree. They use the same tree, they go down the same side of the tree to the same pile that they always go to. But it's not actually because they're creatures of habit. Maybe it's a little bit, but it is hardwired into them to do that. Even in captivity, sloths will use the same tree, same side of the tree, same pile as they always go to. Even if it's cleaned up once a week like we do here, they'll always go to the same spot. And that's because of the relationship that they have with those moths that live on their backs. I said that's how they get that bacteria that they use to digest their food. The only place that those moths can live in the entire world is on the back of the sloth that is living in Central or South America. They can't live here, and if they did, they would only be able to live on the back of the sloth. They can't fly around the environment like other moths can. They require direct contact with that sloth to be able to crawl onto it. So when they have a baby, the baby is on their chest, those moths are crawling onto it, they can go onto that baby, but they do need that direct contact. So they need somewhere to repopulate. They can't just repopulate on the back of the sloth. They need somewhere to lay their eggs. So when they come down to that same pile every week, those moths will crawl down off of the sloth, lay their eggs, and crawl back up before they lose their ride back to the canopy. So last week's eggs are this week's larvae, and this week's larvae are next week's moths. And once those moths fully develop, they need somewhere to go. They can't just fly up and find the sloth. The sloth has to come to them. And when they do, those moths will crawl back up onto the sloth, and the cycle is always repeated. And it needs to be repeated because the sloths need them. And those moths on the back of the sloth will feed off of the moss and algae, and it just keeps that whole symbiotic relationship going. And it is very sensitive, so much so that if the sloth didn't use the same tree, they used the same side of the tree, say they used the same tree but went around the other side to a different pile, or where there wasn't already a pile. Yeah, don't let him get a hold of those bigger ones, because those big ones are not. Yeah. He would choke on bigger ones like that.
No big ones. Give you this. Give you
You can
this.
slice some of these up just a little bit smaller if you want some of these, though. Can't take in big ones.
Licking his lips.
He said, that smells pretty good.
Now, do they have saliva and everything to help digest the food?
Yes, but just the saliva alone and, you know, enzymes and things like that are not going to be enough to be able to digest it.
Oh, right.
They do need those moths and the bacteria. So for a wild, or for a captive sloth, one that's born and raised here, a lot of people are confused then because they don't have any moths on them. And that's actually around day 3 of the mother's, or of the baby's life, is when they get just a little bit of their mom's bacteria colony, actually from her saliva. So the bacteria that she has in her gut is also going up into her digestive system that's up top in her salivary glands. And so the bacteria that she's using deep down to digest her food is also in her mouth. So when she starts eating
That's
the
what she
leaves,
wanted.
yeah, the leaves that she's eating will mix with her saliva. And around day 3 is when the baby starts getting interested with what mom's doing. And so they will lick up some of the food that's in the corners of her mouth mixed with her saliva. So the bacteria she has in her stomach is going to be transferred over to the baby. So in captivity, it takes just a little bit longer for that bacteria colony to fully be established. But after it is, we'll keep it the rest of the sloth's life, because we keep them in a stable environment where it's always 78 degrees in here, and that's what temperature that bacteria thrives at the best. Is that what you were looking for, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Emma, I guess.
I had enough of rice, I need some solid.
So precious.
Zoey is extra snuggly this morning.
Trying to take a picture.
And her butt is sitting all the way down in your lap, and so if you need to use your right hand to hold your phone too, she'll be supported there.
I'm much rather take pictures of you feeding Dash as opposed to one of us are.
It's not every day that you get to hold and feed a baby sloth.
He's just so cute.
Out of nowhere, she'll just be full snuggle mode and then be interested in what's
Would you
going on.
want to use this?
I think he's just finishing up the last one. so
Oh, is that the
bigger
last one?
ones.
Oh, here we go. Go ahead and take it. There you go. Oh, I feel so much better.
He says, oh, I see movement. What are you looking at, though?
So they get how many,
Oh.
how many times a week do you have an encounter like this? Like you're doing?
Usually, it's only once a week. Usually
Once
it's
a
like,
week.
yeah. But it's been like 2 weeks since we've had one. So yeah, it is on a rare occasion that we do.
Well, it's on a rare occasion we do it. But we will be back for the monkey and,
Yeah. We've got kangaroos and everything too that you can bottle feed and everything. And then you can do a kangaroo encounter where you actually go out and get to see the adult kangaroos and learn about them. But just the talk about the baby kangaroos is extraordinary because you get to learn about the anatomy and everything. We're really big on education, so I mean we could just give you a sloth and let you hold it for 30 minutes, but the whole time we're also giving you information about them, and especially the conservancy side of it. We're down in places that they're native to, what's going on to them down there, so that people will just be educated about it. Especially when we're on lives, because not everybody that sees our lives can actually come and interact with the sloths, but they still get the information about the animals so that they're equipped with that knowledge in the future. And we do the same thing with all of our encounters. So even with Georgie, Of course, you get to play with him, you get to see him and everything, and see how he plays around. But you also have somebody that's there to be their advocate and talk for them because they can't express things by themselves and get to tell them information about the animal too. So to hear about the kangaroos though is really cool. It's neck and neck with that relationship that the sloths have with those moths, because especially, you would have no idea that the temperature of a sloth's environment would dictate how they digest their food, because that just doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it's really cool, and it's
Once you
very,
explain it,
yeah.
it's understandable.
it's very specific, and it baffles me that how very intricate that relationship is, that even if the sloth, say the last week's dung pile is here, if that sloth went to this spot, that relationship would not continue, and those moths would not be able to crawl onto that sloth, and that sloth would not be able to live. With how intricate these animals are, that there are still people that believe that evolution is a thing and these animals just came from nothing. And that's our biggest thing behind the animals that we have here and everything, is that there is a creator, there is somebody out there that made all of this and that loves all of us.
Exactly.
And it is so special to me to tell people about that, because that's the point of everything.
Sure.
And with the animals too, the kangaroos, their anatomy, how they work, how they're able to, just have more babies and be so prolific in Australia is so cool. Just how everything just works together. And if it was thrown off even a little bit, it wouldn't. Like if a kangaroo, I forget, my specialty is sloths, but if a kangaroo doesn't get pregnant by a certain time, she can never get pregnant. Yeah. And so that's the thing with our kangaroos out there, is that there's one of them that she was meeting that point, and I don't think that she was bred by our male kangaroo out there, so she'll never be able to have babies. But it's so specific, things like that, that it's a lot more difficult to explain to somebody the whole metabolic processes that happen all throughout your system that just allows you to be alive and to live and function every day. But telling people about a relationship that sloths have with moths and how specific that is, and if they didn't have that, they wouldn't be able to live, is just a lot easier to explain than have to explain all of the, things that they teach you in college that doesn't make any sense when you're trying to learn it in the middle of it. Microbio is almost a
Since
necessity.
there's no moths here,
Mhm.
how do you supplement that?
You don't. Yeah, that's the whole thing about it, is after they've established that from their mothers, we keep them in a constant 78 degrees environment. If it were to ever drop below that, that's the only time that we would ever run into issues, because the bacteria functions best at 78 degrees in the sloth system. They can't maintain their own body temperature, so their temperature is the same as it is in their environment. If it were to drop much below, like we say 75, because that should be the danger zone, but 73 really is where you start to get, things start to happen pretty quickly. If that were to happen, then there's nothing we can do to get that bacteria back up. And so that's why to own a sloth, it is so important to have knowledge like that. And for a member of the general public that have not had prior knowledge of owning a sloth, it is a terrible idea to have a sloth as a pet. Because there's, like I said, you have no idea that the temperature of their environment would dictate how they digest their food. But,
It's amazing. Did you want to snuggle with her?
It's about 11:20 now, so we'll end about 1 o'clock, but around 12 o'clock, Dash has to go for his nap time. And so if you guys want to trade over now, we can do that.
Okay. Sure.
So what we'll do is I'll take this food from you. I'll get Dash, and I'm going to put him in his basket for just a minute while I transfer Zoey over onto you, and then I'll get it back out and let you hold him. Just sit up here. So you won't have to do anything. He's just going to climb up my arm. Go away. And like I said, he'd stay in this basket and take a nap as long as he didn't see or hear anybody. But if I'm in the same room as him and he's in that basket and not on somebody, he's trying to get out. I'm gonna have you guys trade seats, and then I'll have you take that black cow and drape it over his lap.
Oh, this is way down here.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier in that one to kind of scoot your butt to the edge of the chair and like lean back really well,
Okay.
and that she doesn't dig into you quite as much. It kind of slaps back. actually put your both hands underneath her booty and scooch her up just a little bit higher, she'll wrap up around your torso or your shoulders like that.
Like this?
Yeah, because your torso is longer than hers is, so she just needs a little bit of extra boost to be up higher like that. And if it helps, I can set this underneath her booty, and that way you don't have to put her up so high, because sometimes it can get tiring to have to hold her up like
Well,
this.
she's heavy.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
She's trying to get up there where she
Trying to get up there
snuggle
real good.
in.
That's all
Oh,
right.
bite your ear.
Is she looking for food? She may just be trying to get comfortable.
There's your
It's right in the front.
Yeah, I don't have my glasses.
Zoey, very in your face. Just don't let her get hold of the hand or anything.
Smell something.
She's smelling something. She probably smells dash on her.
Oh. Yeah, we were like, okay, well, yeah, we could put deodorant on, but no perfume. You know, trying to remember that.
Yeah. While you don't have a sloth, if you want to feed him this rice, it makes some really cool pictures if you can actually get up really close to him like this. And I can take some pictures of you feeding this rice here. This one's already up. You would just
Yeah, that's
That's why I'm looking
He loves that rice mixture. And it's not something that he necessarily needs nutritionally. It's just kind of an extra treat for him. It's got the high protein dog food that's in it. It's a little bit more than he needs, but you know, extra protein you just pee out, so it's not going to cause issues or anything like that.
You've got it on your nose.
Oh yeah, he's a messy eater. He's still got leftover from last.
Use it as a little scoop.
Oh yeah.
Zoe's not even, not really hugging me much.
Yeah, she has a harder time with people that have longer torsos
Yeah.
because she's not as long as they are. So she sits down in their lap because she gets heavy after a while too, and people tend to start bringing her back down lower. She curls up into a little ball like that. But if you want her to hug around your neck, you can just kind of scooch her up just a little bit higher, and then she'll reach in around your shoulders like that.
Yeah, like she said, you could put that
Yeah.
underneath her bottom, and then she put her, because she'll wrap those arms right around your neck too.
It's up to you, whatever feels most comfortable for you guys.
Come on, wrap your arms around me.
Good girl.
Oh, there's his so thin.
Very good. If you scooch her up now, up high around your
Yeah.
shoulders, might be able to squeeze this up a
There
little
we
bit.
go.
There we go.
Oh,
Just like that up underneath her.
see?
Oh, she sees your hat. I may have to take your hat off or just scooch it back. There we go.
They're so curious. I didn't anticipate
Yeah,
that.
she's been like that. Since she likes to be up tall like that. My first encounter that I ever had with her before I even started working here, when we first got her as a baby, she rode with a large animal vet that came down here, and he held her, and he had a baseball cap on. The first thing she went for was trying to bite onto that cap. So she has always been like that. She's always been intrigued by baseball caps if there's something like that up on somebody's head.
She's doing licking me.
Yeah, she is.
Licking. Well, I think I had some of the
Food on
food on my
Yeah.
arm
Oh.
earlier. Licking my arm.
Oh, what a fun job you did. What a fun job. Get ready for that. We'll tell you that. It's actually nice. Oh, he wants that.
Yeah, after he knows that we brought the rice out, that's about the only thing that he wants. He's like, I'm
My
setting it up.
baby loves that, yeah. How would bitch at least a little more bite of it?
That's good. Yeah, that's good enough. You just set the whole sweet potato in there.
Oh, that's sweet. Gosh, did you already fall asleep? No? Sleep already? She wants to see you.
Hi, buddy. You kind of in my way.
Oh, she's so tiny compared to. Oh, she's so tiny. Oh my goodness.
And he does a lot better if you want to scooch, not have to support him so much. He does better if he's down in your lap like that. Yeah. And you can still have one hand, up underneath his butt just to support him. But he likes to be down low like that. You don't want to look up at you.
You did tell me
Yeah.
that, I forgot.
And he's easily distracted by things like noses and stuff like that. And so if he's up high like that, it's a lot more tempting for him to nibble on chins and things. Because he's like I say, he's only a year old, and so he's still learning some of the things that Zoe's already picked up on. So things like a chin is not food, a nose is not food, even though she tried to earlier about your nose.
Yeah, Zoe did too. I remember that.
You just take a picture of both of us.
Bunch of us hugging
Doing it at the same
together.
time.
Have you heard about the new thing?
And Zoe's sweet little face. Very easily get distracted. Those are her two positions, it's either up around your shoulders or curled up into a ball like that on your right side.
Well, I've got the ball.
Yeah. And it all just kind of depends, because everybody's shaped a little bit differently, because there's people that'll come in that are, really large, and it's a lot harder for them to hold on to her. So she will like really be up as high as she can up around their shoulders, just holding on like that. And then ones that have shorter torsos or longer torsos, it all just kind of depends on your body type, the sort of position she puts herself into.
She's comfortable.
And there's some people that lean more forward, some people that slouch back more, and all just is different for her.
So, looks like she's having a nap. Don't feel the best.
And Zoe definitely feeds off of people's energy as well. If people are really calm and relaxed, like you guys are, petting really nice and slow and everything, she feeds off of that, and she'll be really relaxed and just curl up. I mean, obviously she's got a lot of trust in you. She's just curled up into a little ball right there in your lap. But then a lot of times what happens is that if it's a man and a wife, usually it's the wife that really wants to come, really wants to see the sloths, and the guy's just kind of like going to just be moral support. And it's just like, whenever you want, sweetie, or just go, you can hold the sloth. Like, I don't have to hold. Like, if we do an encounter with just Zoe and not the sloth keeper. So she'll hold for the majority of the time. And then towards the end, she's convinced him, okay, now I really want you to hold. And then the guy's like, okay, I'll hold for like the last 5 minutes. And so we'll switch over, and he gets ready. He gets a hold of Zoe, and he's just like stiff and just doesn't, has never obviously never held a sloth before, maybe never held a baby before, and they're just like, just doesn't know what to do. And Zoe could have been like completely melted into the lady, and then once she's transferred over onto the guy, it's just like looking around like, this is not right. And
Something's
Donna the owner was telling me the other day that she actually was doing an encounter one time up under the pavilion where there's picnic tables, and they were sitting side by side, and that she had melted into the lady, and it was a situation like that where she convinced the husband that he needed to hold as well, and he was like really apprehensive about it. And once he got hold of her, and it was just really stiff. Zoe was just looking around like, this is not right, and actually climbed back over herself back onto the woman. And that's not something that we do. We don't ever let you guys transfer or anything like that because it just works best if I pick her up and then transfer her over. But she did it herself. She was like, this is my opportunity, and just climbed back over onto her. So she definitely can. She picks up on people's energy. There was a lady, a couple, the other day that came in last week to hold Zoe, and she had just, bless her heart, just woken up from her nap, and so she was still out of it, still trying to figure out what was going on, because like I said, it kind of takes them a minute or two to figure out what's going on and what planet that they're on, because they take some really deep naps. So I had just woke her up from her nap, and these guys were excited to see a sloth, and so I was telling them, all the things, like their hearing is really sensitive, they're really startled by things, need to be nice and slow, and they were trying their best to contain their excitement, but she could definitely pick up that they were over the top excited about seeing a sloth. And so when they were petting, they would go up to the very top of her head and pet down her back, but every time she was like smacking Zoe right in the face to pet her, and Zoe was just like blinking, looking at me like, what is going on?
Rescue me, tell them, remind them.
Yeah, and I did several times, like, just, we just wanted to pet nice and slow and gentle with them, and she'd get better for a minute and then start to smack her. And Zoe did good, she just took it all, but that's why, like I said, we only do, if she were to be fully booked for the entire day, she would have an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. And so like today, she has one more encounter this afternoon, and it's for 30 minutes, and then she's done. And that's because we had the sloth keeper this morning where she's going to be held for a lot longer. And like you can see, she does enjoy it, and she would hold on to somebody for a long time, especially if it's guys like you guys that are really slow and gentle with her. But not everybody holds the same way, obviously. And so some of them can be a little bit overstimulating to her, and we don't ever want to book her back to back to back to back to back to back to where it starts to get, just a chore for her. It's at the point now that even after a fully booked day, she could have an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, even maybe with some people that were a little bit more energetic, like those people I was describing, and I could go in after her last encounter, clean up her enclosure, and if she's awake and she sees me in there, she's still trying to climb onto me, even without knowing who I am, because like I said, him looking at me, he can't distinguish who I am by just looking at me, but since he hears me talking, he knows who I am. So if I go into her enclosure and I'm trying to be really quiet, not let her know that I'm in there, she's still, without even knowing who I am, she just knows there's somebody in there and she wants them to hold her. So she's climbing through the branches at me, just reaching out, trying to get me to pick her up, because that's what she wants.
So do each of them have a separate enclosure?
Right now they do. Now in the future, we do have 3 sloths. We're about to actually get a 4th one, and we have 2 sloth enclosures. So Flash's enclosure goes at 20 feet, and Zoe's is just 10. So eventually we're going to switch them over and have Flash in the 10-foot, Zoe, Dash, and our new baby Chloe in the same enclosure.
So girls, boys separated.
You're gonna get a new baby?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So we'll have Flash, Dash, Zoe, and Chloe. And it would be a lot easier to put them together than he sees that fly flying around in his face. To put them together than it would be to put Flash with anybody. Because like I said, Flash was not raised the same way that they were, and he was not raised around any other sloths. He had his mother, and then after he was weaned, he was solitary. He got put into an enclosure where he wasn't around any other sloths. And that's what he wanted, that's what he was comfortable with, because that's what naturally sloths look for, is just solitary. So solitary confinement for them is just their dream, if they're not taught any otherwise. Now for Zoe and Dash, after they've had this conditioning and they've had this, where they're getting held every day, if they were to be put into solitary confinement, I don't think they would live for very long, because they do seek out this interaction. Yeah. And like I said, they're very routine animals, and so it's just normal for them that every day in the morning they see some people for a little bit, and then in the afternoon they see some people for a little bit, and that's what happens day in and day out. Now, you were talking about earlier that there are some other places in the States that offer sloth encounters, and I just said you have to research before you, book anything like that, because there's some places that will advertise their sloth encounters as drop-in sloth encounters or no appointment necessary sloth encounters. And you really have to look into places like that and, know how they run things and how many sloths they have, because maybe they might have more sloths than we have. We just have the 3 right now. But if there are no appointment necessary, those sloths could be booked after, one after the other all day, every day. And, while they seek it out, and if those sloths are raised the same way where they do genuinely enjoy human interaction, with any good thing, too much of any good thing can be bad. And so you don't ever want to book them back to back to back to back where they don't get time to just be able to be sloths, decompress, and look forward to the next encounter. Because if they get it all day, every day, they don't have time to be looking forward to it again. It's just all day what they do. So,
Again, that type of thing is what really drew me. Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah.
Letting them be sloths.
Mhm.
I followed up, well, we ended up, he finally did as well, followed a monkey in the Philippines and what they were doing with them. And of course, they made them walk on their 2 back feet.
Oh.
And it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
I said, like, little monkeys.
Yeah.
And I mean,
they dress them up, but they're all walking on their back feet, which
Yeah.
that's not being a monkey.
Yeah. What kind of monkeys were they?
I don't know. They're not spider monkeys.
Yeah, I don't know if spider monkeys are named.
No, they're not
monkeys or
spider
not.
monkeys. They're kind of like the monkey you'd have, like an organ grinder monkey kind of monkey.
Yeah.
But they take good care of those monkeys.
just
They've
love
got nice
them.
outfits
Get
and
in their pocket.
Yeah.
they've got all kinds
want
of
them.
things for them to do, and
Yeah.
climb trees and get
Yeah.
fruit, and
Yeah.
gather carrots, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
We've followed a couple of them,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they make a lot of money
Oh, yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah. Just social
We don't
media.
pay for it, but
Yeah.
they do have a pay for it channel that
Mhm.
I guess you can.
Well, and with any social media, if you get enough views on a video, you get paid for it.
Right.
So, yeah. But that's the thing, the major difference about monkeys and sloths, they're like complete opposite animals. They're from, spider monkeys and sloths are from the same area, Central and South America is where they're native to, but they're like arch enemies. They're the exact opposite from one another. Monkeys are very much so, they have to have enrichment, they have to have something to do all the time or they will go insane. And
Yeah,
they are
these
very,
monkeys, they give
yeah,
tasks.
yeah. Yeah, they're smart, they're very advanced animals. And sloths are smart too, but they don't want to be, swinging through the trees and
they're
pestering
different.
things and, yeah, they're geared very, very differently. But the monkeys, they're already very strange animals. Like I have, with a dog, if you try to hype a dog up, you're talking to them real high pitched, trying to get them excited, they typically will feed off that energy and they'll get excited. And if you ignore them and you just, are doing your own thing, they'll leave you alone and do their own thing. Monkeys are the opposite. If he is not feeling it, if you're just over the top and just trying to do too much, trying to play too much, he's like, get away from me, you're weird. But if you are just ignoring him, like minding your own business, most of the time his encounters go, if it's like a guy and a girl, usually it's the guy that is just kind of there for the girl, like, whatever, it's a spider monkey. And he will like attach himself to the guy. And the girl's like, please come be my friend. He's like, no. So it is just exact opposite. It's so funny with him. But it's the same way with the way that they just live, the way they play and everything. They want to be playing, they want to be pestering, they want to be poking and prodding and everything. And sloths just want to be left alone. So a lot of times the monkeys will come swing through the trees and find a little poor sloth to pick on and just be pestering it and poking at it and prodding at it and just annoying the
Making
daylights
it
out of it.
crazy.
Yeah. And of course, sloths are very slow, gentle, docile animals as long as they're left alone. But if you were to try to have an encounter like this with a wild sloth, get it off the tree, or have a monkey go through the trees and be pestering it, it can have short bursts of energy and would, definitely not have an agreement with a monkey. So that's why the monkey does not get to come in here unless their sloths are up. Because there have been times where he's, and they've not ever had interactions or anything like that, but just the deep-rooted behavior between monkeys and sloths, it just goes deep because the blinds can be lifted like that. And if there's a, if Zoe's hanging out in there and Georgie sees Zoey, he's just straight to the window. Like, how can I get through this door to go, mess with this animal? And it's like, good night. You've never even, been around her before. But so yeah, he only gets
Just
to come in here
curious.
with, yeah.
Yeah, just want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's been, I so enjoyed watching this first monkey and then the second one they got and their antics. But, when they make them walk on their hind legs and make them do things that are unnatural, that would just break my heart.
Yeah.
Well, they don't show you how they trained them to do that, but I'm sure they tie them up and
Negative
Well, they do.
reinforcement.
They
walk
tie
around
their-
like a puppet.
Yeah, and that's the thing about sloths too, is that they don't, there's different types of training. There's positive reinforcement where they do the right thing,
Yes.
you give them a treat. There's negative reinforcement where they do the wrong thing, you tell them, no, that's not what you do, things like that. Sloths do not do well with negative reinforcement. They don't understand punishment. They're not like a monkey. Monkeys can understand things like that. Like Georgie, if he gets in trouble and he gets yelled at, no, don't do that, that's bad monkey. He understands that and he's like, oh, okay, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Bad monkey.
And so he knows that if he's, running through the kitchen and he goes to get up onto the stove, he'll look at us like, before he does it, because he knows he's about to get yelled at and it's just a game for him. But he does understand that. Sloths don't understand that. Any type of a negative reinforcement, they're not gonna understand. They don't understand words like Georgie can understand his name. Now the sloths, to an extent, they understand their names. Dash, especially if he's in the basket and say he's really sleepy and we're in the same room as him talking, having normal conversation, but he's still in his basket sleeping. As soon as we start talking about him and saying his name over and over again, he'll start to uncover himself and peer out over the side of that basket because he knows that we're talking about him and he knows that we're probably going to come and get him after that. So they're smarter than people pick up
Recognize their
on.
names.
Yeah, but they're not like a monkey where immediately you say Georgie, he looks at you.
Can't call them and tell them to bring you the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's, you have to be able to condition a sloth like this to get them to where they do genuinely seek out human interaction. It's not like we go in there, say a cue word, and they come to us. It's we walk in there and I'm trying to do everything to avoid her, just clean up her enclosure, and she's climbing at me, trying to get me, because this is where she's most comfortable at. You have to understand the way that a sloth's brain works. And just have so much prior knowledge and experience of having and owning sloths to get them to this point. The guy that breeds them to be ambassador animals like this actually is a veterinarian, and what started his program was over 30 years ago. He was working down somewhere that they were native to, trying to rehabilitate some injured sloths. A lot of times what happens is they'll be electrocuted trying to pass a roadway. So he was working on a lot of the sloths that had been electrocuted, trying to slowly rehabilitate them so that they could be released back into the rainforest. But the ones where their injuries were significant enough that they could not be returned back to the rainforest and they had to stay in captivity is what started his breeding program. So that was over 30 years ago, and those sloths were very different from these sloths. And there, but since then, have been generations upon generations upon generations of sloths born and raised in captivity. And he probably does not even have those original sloths anymore. They've probably passed. Because there's no telling how old they already were before they, started his program there. He has a lot of knowledge about sloths, and anytime we ever have any type of a question, whether it's health related or behavior related
Give him a call.
or
Wonderful
anything,
resource
we
on
take videos, send it to him, give him a call, and we always, have a good relationship with him, especially for his sloths, because he watched these guys be born and raised, he's worked with them since day one, so he understands the way that they think, the way that they work. And it's something that we always work on every day to just understand them more, because we're not sloths, we weren't raised by sloths, so we don't pick up on the body language that they can portray to us. Same thing with dogs. A lot of people have dogs as pets, and they can understand to an extent, like a growl obviously is unhappy, or some ways that they can look at you, the way they cut their eyes as they're uncomfortable, or the way they lay their ears and things like that. And so some people will pick up on that because they've been around dogs a lot. Nobody's been around a sloth before, so they don't understand a sloth behavior. So it's always our job to advocate for them and to make sure that they're comfortable with any situation that we put them into, and that if it were to ever be something that were repeatedly the people weren't listening, that we would have to end the encounter. It's always the sloth's comfort is first. We
As it
always
should
tell
be.
people, that obviously human safety is our number one concern. If we were to be out on a farm tour and one of the horses reached through the fence and just bite somebody out of nowhere, that they were completely unprovoked or anything like that, that horse or whatever that animal would not stay here for very long after that. We don't want to have any animals here that aren't comfortable with being around people and seek out human interaction like that. So we obviously would not keep an animal like that, and there would probably be some type of reimbursement or something. So human safety is our primary concern, but animal comfort is our secondary. So if, a minute prior that person was poking and prodding at that horse and trying to get him worked up, obviously that's something that has been provoked to happen. So we always have to assess the situation and see what was going on beforehand, the time working up to the event. So this is the only encounters that you guys have for the day. It's just the sloths. Have you guys ever been on a cruise or anything like that to go down to somewhere that they're native?
I've not been to Costa Rica. I have been, through the Bahamas.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
well, Georgia, he just doesn't have interest in traveling anymore. He's got, he grew up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was in the Air Force.
Oh, yeah.
I was a new kid in school all my life.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in New Delhi, India, from
3.5
his
years.
primary,
Yeah. Yeah.
formative years.
Mhm.
And then when he's been there,
Yeah.
he just didn't have an interest in doing
Yeah.
it anymore. So, and now he's got cancer.
Oh.
And so we don't travel, we stay close
Yeah.
close to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to check off something off your bucket list, and we're kind of close like
That's
this.
right.
It wasn't on our bucket list until
Did you
He
saw it could be
saw it.
something to
Yes,
do?
I
We didn't know it was an option. We
Yeah.
didn't know it was an
I mean,
option.
when I saw
That's
that,
why.
somebody posted a video on Facebook or
Mhm.
something, and I started there, and then it's like, hey, wait, let me look at that website, whoa. And then I had her look at it, because she was saying, well, how much does this cost, or what can we do with that one, and how long is it? 20 minutes with a monkey, or 30 minutes with a monkey, or something like that. And I said, well, we can do this, and then a little bit of sloth.
Yeah.
No, let's do all sloth. So I said, okay. And we got 2 t-shirts and 2
Yeah.
bracelets.
Mhm.
So now the bracelets, they do track a.
Yes, so there's a little paper that you get with it, and you scan the little QR code that it has on there.
Uh-huh.
And there's 4 or 5 different sloths that we have out there in the drawer that you can look at and figure out which one you actually want to track. And they're all different, they all got different names, different personalities, different places that they hang out and stuff like that, and moving patterns. But you pick the sloth that you like the best, and then you can scan that QR code after you get the bracelet. And it's a little app that you download on your phone.
Yeah.
You just get to see where all they travel and where they go to.
And they're all in Costa Rica somewhere, right?
Yeah, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras,
Okay.
somewhere like that. They're all in different areas. There's a little blurb about all of them.
Zoey is something. He's very,
Yeah. Yeah, she settled in quick.
he said he was living.
Yeah.
He came home from work one day years ago, and he had a bird on his hand. And apparently, he'd seen a bird in the road and thought it was hurt. And so he got out of his car, stopped his car in the middle of the road, and got out and got the bird. And so he carried that bird all the way in the car home with him,
Yeah.
brought it into the house.
He might want something.
No. Oh, here.
And so I said, well, let's put it outside if it's hurt and determine, if we need to, we can get it help or what's wrong with it. And I said, well, we better put a clothes basket over it because I didn't want any
Yeah.
animals to get it
Yeah.
if it could not get away. And we went back out there a couple months later. I called UT.
Mhm.
You know, that's in. We went back out there, and I lifted the basket up to see, you know, what I could see based on what they asked me, and I didn't know. Well, that bird just hopped on over from the table to the railing and just flew away.
Oh.
So he just carried it home,
Yeah.
and there wasn't a thing wrong with it. I mean, it may have, you know, flew into something. And
Yeah, just been days.
been dazed, but that's how he is with animals.
Yeah.
They just will follow
Animals
him
can,
around.
yeah, animals pick up on things like
They
that.
can
Like I
sense
said,
that.
especially Zoey, they can sense if somebody's really uncomfortable with being held or holding them or whatever. She can pick up on things like that. So there was,
Absolutely.
yeah, yesterday morning there was an encounter that we had with 30 minutes with Flash and 30 minutes with Zoey. And it was two ladies, and one lady was all about, just petting Flash, feeding him, working with him and everything. And then the other one was just kind of standing there, just taking in everything. And I was like, you can, if you want to hold the ball, you can hold the ball, and you don't have to, hold the veggie or anything like that. And she said, no, I'm just gonna watch. And so then it was time to move over to Zoey, and I was like, so I'm guessing that she's just gonna hold the whole time or not wanting to hold. She's like, well, maybe I might hold. And I was like, well, if you haven't been comfortable enough with just feeding Flash, you're probably not gonna be comfortable enough with a sloth sitting on your lap. And Zoey can pick up on things like that. If she knows that you are not comfortable with holding her, she's not gonna wanna be in your lap. So it's probably not gonna work out very well if you're uncomfortable with being around him. And so she was like, yeah, that's probably the best if she just holds. It's like, good choice.
Are you watching fish?
I think it had been a thing that her dad had scheduled, and they just kind of were going along with it, but didn't actually, weren't really
They
too
didn't have the
interested in
desire
it.
to
Yeah.
do it themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, we wanted to so much.
My dad, before I was ever born, lived in Panama, and he had a spider monkey, a burro, and a macaw,
Oh,
all
wow.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So his father was just like, oh,
Yeah.
they just,
Yeah,
I
stuff,
love
any
animals,
kind of
yeah.
animals. In India, I ended up with 2 baby monkeys, but they both died.
Oh.
I guess somebody killed the
Oh.
mother and these,
Yeah.
I mean, they were so small. I bottle fed them and stuff, but, they both
Yeah. It's hard to
died
keep things like
within,
that.
a month or so.
Yeah.
You could buy parrots there, but as a pet, but you go out and, after a week, go out and that parrot was on its back, feet straight up.
Oh.
They last about a week and then they die. I mean, they just weren't the type to be captive.
Yeah.
And, that was back in, early 60s, so it was a lot different now,
Yeah.
but,
Well, and with any animal that has been born and raised in the wild and is then tried to take into captivity, it doesn't ever really work out that well. Even if it's a baby animal, just because, if you are having to rear that animal and bottle feed it or what have you, the situations are just so completely different, and they are generationally wild animals, and so it's a lot harder for them to adapt and to be bottle raised by something that they think that they should be scared of, but is then, giving them food and stuff like that. It's a hard adjustment for them to make. And with the sloths, there is an illegal trade of sloths that, where they will take sloths from the rainforest and bring them over to the States. And that's what, unfortunately, if you are able to find a sloth for sale on the internet, that they don't do any type of a background check before you get them, those sloths have been taken from the rainforest, and that's how a lot of people are able to get those sloths.
they probably
But
didn't live.
yeah, they have a life expectancy of about 2.5 weeks, because that's approximately how long it takes for the sloth to starve. Even if they're eating, even if they're being fed the right diet, they're getting their bellies full every day, they can pass with a full belly of food, just not being able to digest any of it.
Yeah.
So that's what happens a lot of times to them.
we don't have any indoor animals, and it doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of allergies.
Mm.
I took a couple of Benadryl,